I never know how to start this kind of story. Maybe it's because every time I try to remember the moment everything changed, my mind still trembles a little. A few weeks ago, I found something hidden in my parents' house, something so small, so insignificant at first glance, that I almost ignored it. Funny how life works. Sometimes the tiniest discovery shatters everything you thought you knew. And I guess that's why I'm finally sitting here, trying to breathe, trying to explain what happened. My name is Theo Alvarez, and the truth I uncovered about my parents didn't just surprise me. It broke me. It rewrote my entire life. I grew up believing my family was simple, quiet, normal. My parents, Marissa and Jonathan, were not the warmest people in the world, but they were stable. Predictable. The kind of parents who made schedules for everything and preferred silence over chaos. I used to think they were just introverted, or tired, or maybe a bit old-fashioned. I never questioned anything because, why would I? They provided a roof over my head, meals, education. And they never raised their voices. Not once. Looking back now, I realize their silence shouldn't have felt so normal. As a kid, I always thought our house was strangely organized, almost obsessively so. My mother used to say, "Order protects us." That phrase stuck with me, even though I never understood what she meant. Protect us from what? From mess? From dirt? From memories? When I got older, I joked about it. When I was a teenager and brought friends over, they always commented on how spotless everything was. No photographs on the walls, no sentimental decorations, just clean surfaces and closed doors. I remember once asking my parents why we didn't have any family pictures. My mother just said she didn't like clutter. My father nodded, as if rehearsed. Maybe that should have been my first clue. But I guess every family has its own weirdness, right? So I moved on. I lived my life. Finished school, moved out for college, built a routine outside that silent house. And honestly, I thought I was fine. I thought they were just private. That's all. Until I went back home one weekend. It was a simple visit. My father had asked me to help change the lights in the attic. He said the old bulbs were flickering. And I hadn't been there in months, so I agreed. I drove over on a Saturday morning, expecting nothing more than dust and the strange feeling I always got when I stepped inside that house. The air was still heavy, like it had secrets trapped in it. I said hello to my mother, but she didn't hug me. She never did. She touched my arm briefly, gave a faint smile, and went back to the kitchen. My father was in the backyard trimming hedges, like always. That man trimmed hedges as if his life depended on it. When I climbed into the attic, I noticed something unusual. One of the old wooden panels beneath the insulation was slightly raised, almost as if someone had opened it recently. I don't know why I noticed. Maybe I sensed it. Maybe some part of me already knew things weren't what they seemed. I reached for it, pulled it up, and something soft thudded into my hand. A small leather pouch. It was old and cracked, like it had been handled too many times or maybe forgotten for years. My first thought was that it belonged to my father, maybe some old tools or coins he collected. But when I opened it, there were no coins, no tools. Just 3 items. A photograph. A metal pendant with strange initials. And a folded paper with handwriting I didn't recognize. I felt something shift inside me, like a quiet internal warning. The attic suddenly felt colder, smaller. I sat on the floor, dust sticking to my jeans, and unfolded the paper. It was a birth certificate. Not mine. At least, not the version I knew. This one had my full name, Theo Santiago Alvarez, but the parents listed weren't Marissa and Jonathan. The names were completely different. Luciana Vargas. And Miguel Alvarez. I stared at the paper so long my eyes stung. I read the names again and again, expecting them to rearrange themselves into something that made sense, something familiar. But nothing changed. I checked the date, it matched my birthday. It was unquestionably mine. Only, it wasn't. Or it was, but not the version I had grown up believing. My hands began to shake. I grabbed the photograph next. It showed a woman, maybe in her late 20s, holding a baby wrapped in a blue blanket. Her hair was long, dark, and wavy, and her smile was so warm it hurt to look at. She looked nothing like my mother. Absolutely nothing. And yet, part of her face felt familiar. Her eyes. The way she held the baby. I don't know why, but tears welled up immediately. I didn't recognize her, but some instinct deep inside me whispered that I should have. The pendant had initials engraved on it, LV. Luciana Vargas. The name on the certificate. I don't remember how long I stayed sitting there. I just know that the moment I heard footsteps climbing the attic stairs, my heart dropped. I shoved everything back into the pouch, but I kept it in my hand, unable to let it go. When I looked up, my father was standing there, staring at me. His eyes landed on the pouch instantly. And something in his expression changed. Not anger. Not surprise. Fear. Real, raw fear. "What are you doing with that?" he asked. His voice was calm, but I knew that tone. It was the tone he used when he tried to hide something. "I found it," I said. "What is this? Why is my birth certificate different? Who is Luciana?" My father froze. Completely. His chest barely moved. He looked at me the way someone looks at a crime scene, as if choosing the next step could destroy everything. Before he could say anything, my mother appeared behind him. Her eyes darted to the pouch, then to his face. And she knew. She didn't say a word, but her whole body deflated, like she'd been waiting for this moment for years. I repeated the question, louder this time, "Who is Luciana?" My mother stepped forward, placing a hand on my father's arm. "Theo," she whispered. "Please, don't jump to conclusions." "I'm not jumping," I snapped. "I'm asking. Just tell me who she is." My father looked away, jaw clenching. "We should discuss this downstairs." "No," I said. "Tell me here." The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Finally, my mother whispered, "She was someone important." That answer lit a fire inside me. Someone important? To who? To you? To him? Or to me? Neither of them spoke. The air felt frozen around us. My father took a slow breath. "Theo, things were complicated back then." "Back then? Back when? Who was this woman? Why was my entire identity hidden in the attic?" I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and uncontrollable. I stood up and walked past both of them without another word. My mother reached for me, but I pulled away. I ran downstairs, through the living room, and out the front door. I needed air. I needed space. Everything I'd ever believed about my life suddenly felt like a carefully constructed lie. I sat in my car for almost 20 minutes, staring at the pouch like it might explode. I kept asking myself the same question: why would they hide something like this from me? Why was my real mother, if that's who she was, never mentioned? How could my parents, the people who raised me, keep something so monumental buried? I drove home, but I don't remember the drive. My mind was a storm, images, questions, flashes of childhood moments that suddenly felt suspicious. Memories of hushed arguments at night. My mother crying in the bathroom with the door locked. My father checking the locks repeatedly before going to bed. The lack of photographs. The boundaries. The constant fear in their voices when strangers came to the door. It all made sense now. A terrible, horrifying kind of sense. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the woman in the photograph. Luciana. Her smile. Her eyes. My eyes. I felt connected to her in a way that terrified me. The next morning, I decided I needed answers. Not half-truths. Not vague explanations. Answers. Real ones. I went back to my parents' house without calling. When my mother opened the door, her face went pale. She knew exactly why I was there. Before she could speak, I said, "I want the truth. All of it." My father was sitting at the kitchen table, hands clasped tightly, staring at the wood grain as if it could save him. I sat across from him. The pouch was on the table between us. "Please," I whispered. "Just tell me who she was. Tell me why you hid this. Tell me why my life is different than what you led me to believe." My mother pulled out a chair but didn't sit. She hovered, trembling. My father finally lifted his eyes and met mine. And in that moment, I knew. Whatever he was about to say would destroy the version of my life I had carried for 24 years. He opened his mouth. And then he said the words that changed everything. "Your mother didn't give you up. She was taken from you." I felt my entire body go cold. My breath stopped. The room tilted slightly. "What do you mean taken?" I whispered. My father looked shattered. "Theo, your real mother didn't leave you behind. She didn't walk away. She didn't abandon you. She fought for you until the very end." The very end. Those 3 words echoed inside me like thunder. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My hands went numb. My mother, Marissa, the woman who raised me, finally spoke, tears slipping down her face. "We weren't supposed to tell you. Ever." "Why?" I asked, voice cracking. "Why would you hide something like this?" "Because knowing the truth," she whispered, "would put you in danger." And that was the moment I realized my life wasn't just built on secrets. It was built on fear. Fear of something, or someone, still out there. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that the truth I had uncovered was only the beginning of a much darker story. A story I wasn't sure I was ready to hear, but one I couldn't turn away from anymore. I barely remember how long I sat in that kitchen, staring at the wood grain in the table like it might hold a different truth, one less terrifying, one less impossible. My father's words were still echoing through me, distorting everything I thought I understood. My real mother, taken. Taken by who? For what? The world felt unreal, like I had slipped into a version of my life that wasn't mine, a place where nothing made sense anymore. I swallowed hard, trying to breathe normally, but my chest felt tight. "What do you mean, taken? What happened to her? Where is she now?" My father didn't speak immediately. His eyes carried something I'd never seen before, something like defeat. Fear. And regret so heavy I could feel it pressing against my skin. My mother, Marissa, walked quietly to the window and closed the curtains, even though it was broad daylight. It was such a small gesture, but the intentionality behind it made my stomach twist. She was afraid of being seen. Still, after all these years. "Sit down, Theo," she whispered. "Please." But I was already sitting. Already sinking. She turned toward me slowly. "Your mother. Luciana, she was a good woman. Brave. Strong. Too strong for her own good sometimes." The way she said it wasn't jealous or resentful. It was mourning. As if she missed her, too. My father rubbed his hands together, the sound scraping against my nerves. "Luciana didn't just live an ordinary life," he said. "She was running from someone dangerous. Someone who wanted her gone. Someone who," he hesitated, his voice trembling. "Someone who wanted you." That sentence hit me harder than anything else. "Why would anyone want me?" I asked. It wasn't self-pity, it was confusion so deep it made me dizzy. My father exchanged a look with Marissa. A whole conversation passed silently between them. Then he exhaled. Because of who your biological father was. I stiffened. Miguel? The man listed on the certificate? Yes, my father said. Miguel Alvarez wasn't just a father. He wasn't just a man. He was involved with dangerous people. People who don't let anyone walk away. Not even their children. I blinked slowly, trying to process the words. Dangerous people. Taken. Running. My life suddenly felt like the opening scene of a thriller I never knew I'd been cast in. What happened to him? I asked. My mother answered this time. He disappeared before you were born. Vanished without a trace. Some people believed he was dead. Others believed he was hiding. Luciana always believed he was alive. And whoever he was involved with, my father added, believed the same. That's why they went after her. Because she knew too much. Because they thought she might know where he was. And me? I whispered. You were leverage, he said quietly. Or a threat. Or maybe just a loose end. We never got a clear answer. My hands trembled under the table. So, what happened the night she was taken? My mother clasped her hands together tightly. Luciana came to us a few weeks after you were born. We were friends. Old friends. She trusted us. She begged us to keep you safe, to take you somewhere far. She said she would join us later, once she was sure no one was following her. A tear slid down her cheek. She never came. My father continued the story in a voice so low I had to lean in to hear it. We found out later that she'd been cornered. Taken in the middle of the night. No body. No witnesses. Just gone. I pressed a trembling hand to my forehead. Why didn't you go to the police? We tried, my mother whispered. But no one believed us. And the few who did, disappeared. Or suddenly retired. Or told us to let it go. My father leaned forward, gripping the edge of the table. Theo, we didn't hide the truth because we wanted to. We hid it because we had to. Because the people after your mother were connected, ruthless, and patient. And because if they ever found out who you really were, they'd come after me, I finished. He nodded. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. My heart pounded in my ears. Every breath scraped against my chest, sharp and painful. So what now? I whispered. Am I still in danger? My father hesitated. My mother looked away. And that was all the answer I needed. I pushed back from the table so fast the chair scraped loudly across the floor. I need air. My mother reached for me, panic in her voice. Theo, wait. But I couldn't. I walked out the front door and kept walking, down the driveway, past the mailboxes, down the street. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I needed to get away before my thoughts swallowed me whole. It's strange, how one revelation can turn your entire body into a battlefield. My mind was fighting itself. Half of me wanted to run back inside and demand every detail. The other half wanted to get in my car and never come back. And deep beneath all that chaos was something else, grief. Grief for a woman I never knew. Grief for a life that was never really mine. Grief for a childhood that now felt false. Grief for the identity I had lost overnight. I don't know how long I wandered. Maybe an hour. Maybe 2. I ended up at a quiet park I used to visit as a teenager. I sat on one of the swings, gripping the chains so hard they dug into my palms. I kept replaying everything in my head, my parents' silence, the secrets, the photograph, the pendant, the birth certificate. The fear in their voices. The way my father said, dangerous people, like they might be listening. The world felt too big and too small at the same time. Eventually, I heard footsteps behind me. Soft ones. Ones that hesitated. Ones that didn't belong to strangers. Elena? I whispered before even turning. She'd been my best friend since middle school. The one person I trusted completely. She lived a few streets away and must have seen me walking like a ghost. Elena, I repeated when she came around to face me, her eyes filled with worry. I think my whole life has been a lie. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't dismiss it. She just sat on the swing next to mine and waited for me to speak. And maybe that's why I told her everything. Every detail. Every question. Every fear. By the time I finished, her eyes were wide with shock. Theo, this is insane. I know, I whispered. I don't even know who I am anymore. She hesitated. Do you want to find out more? The question lingered in the air. And it hit me in a way nothing else had that day. Yes. I wanted answers. I needed them. I needed to know who Luciana really was. What happened to her? Whether Miguel was alive. Why dangerous people might still be looking for me. And why my parents, Marissa and Jonathan, risked everything to protect me. But wanting the truth meant facing something much darker than secrets. It meant stepping into the world that took my mother away. I want to find out, I finally said. But I don't know where to start. Elena reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. Maybe I can help. I stared at her. You don't have to. I know, she interrupted. But you're not doing this alone. Her loyalty nearly broke me. She opened a search bar and said, "What was your biological mother's full name again?" Luciana Vargas. We typed it. Waited. Watched the screen load. And then, something appeared. A missing person case. A photograph matching the one I'd found in the attic. A date, 24 years ago. The description, last seen fleeing unknown pursuers. Considered endangered and possibly deceased. And then something else. A comment on an old forum thread from a user with a cryptic username. Posted only 6 months ago. 4 chilling words. She had a son. My blood turned to ice. Elena looked at me, her face pale. Theo, this was posted recently. I swallowed hard. Someone's still looking. She opened the user profile. It was empty. Except for one line. If you see this, contact me. I know what happened. And I know who's next. I felt the air leave my lungs. Who's next? Not what's next. Who? Suddenly, everything snapped together, the urgency in my parents' voices, the missing photographs, the locked doors, the fear that never left their eyes. Someone out there knew the truth. Someone who wasn't my parents. Someone who had been watching. Waiting. And they were calling out to me. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. Elena, what do I do? She whispered, do you think your parents know about this? I shook my head slowly. I don't know. But I need to find this person. Whoever they are, they know what happened. They know more than my parents. They might even know if my mother is still alive. The thought made my heart ache. It was a small, fragile hope. But it was hope. We sat in silence for a long time. Then Elena said, if you reach out to them, you need to be careful. I know. And you can't do it alone. I know. And once you start this, there's no going back. I closed my eyes. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me, but beneath that weight, something else stirred. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. I'm not running anymore, I whispered. I need the truth. When I opened my eyes, the world felt sharper. Darker. Real. I didn't know that night would be the beginning of a journey that would tear open the past and expose the danger hiding in the shadows of my life. I didn't know how deep the secrets went, how far the lies stretched. But I knew one thing. I couldn't live in ignorance anymore. And as I stood from the swing and looked back toward the direction of my parents' house, I felt something shift inside me, like I was stepping out of one life and into another. A life built on truth. No matter how much it hurt. That night, after Elena dropped me off, I sat alone in my room with the lights off, staring at the photograph of Luciana. Her eyes were warm, but there was something in them, something I hadn't noticed before. A quiet fear. A silent warning. As if she already knew this moment would come. As if she were looking at me through the years, whispering. Find me. Find the truth. Don't let them win. I held the pendant in my hand, feeling the metal warm against my skin. The initials, LV, felt heavier now, like the weight of a legacy I never asked for but could no longer avoid. In that dark room, I finally understood something important. My life didn't start with Marissa and Jonathan. It didn't start in that silent, spotless house. It didn't start with their rules, their order, their fear. My life began with a woman fighting for her son. A woman who vanished into the shadows to protect me. A woman whose voice I had never heard, but whose love I could feel even now. And I knew, deep in my bones, that her story wasn't over. Neither was mine. That night, before I finally closed my eyes, I whispered into the silence. Mom. I'm coming for the truth. I didn't know who would hear me. I didn't know what dangers were already moving toward me. I didn't know how close the past was to catching up. All I knew was this. Everything in my life had changed. And nothing would ever be the same again.